Hello there, one and all, and welcome to episode 443 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, live on YouTube. And it's an interview episode. It feels like we haven't done one of these for a while. I think the last time was in January, but we're kind of going to be making up for lost time over the course of the next few weeks because I've got a few more coming your way. Today, we are going to be talking to a brand founder and creative director, although if she doesn't call herself a creative director, she'll be able to correct me in a few moments. The brand in question is a brand that I have mentioned on this channel before. They have got 3 perfumes under their belt so far, and each one of them has been reviewed in some way on the channel. The brand, as you can see, is Peosym. The 3 fragrance. They started with the perfume here, Lost Wanderer. Then they went on to create Nirmohee, and then last year they also gave us Horn OK Please, which I was particularly taken with. I'm sure we'll be hearing about the creation of those scents in due course. But the person who's in the studio is, as I say, the brand founder, Purvi Joshi, who introduces herself, or in her biography, as she actually says, I'm going to read what she wrote. She says, I'm as much of an outsider in this industry as one can be. But she says that the project, which, by the way, the name of the brand is an acronym. I hadn't realized that. It stands for Personal Expression of Stories, Yearnings, and Memories. It all started by a curious project, she says, started with a lot of hesitations and propelled forward by the fear of regrets, as well as a bereavement, which, if you watched my review of Lost Wanderer, you will know, you know what she's referring to. So I'm sure we'll have lots and lots of questions to put to her, but the very, very first thing I need to say after I welcome her to the studio, so Purvi, thank you very much for joining us, but I'm going to say it is 4 a.m. where you are in Australia, in Sydney, Australia. So before I say anything else, a huge, huge thank you for giving up your sleep and your time for this channel. Have you stayed up to 4 a.m. or did you wake up for this interview?
No, I woke up early, just about an hour back. And to be honest, this is a huge honor. Little bit of sleep is not much of a sacrifice. I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
No, the honor is absolutely all mine, and the gratitude is all mine. I'm not sure. I think this is the first time somebody has actually given up their sleep in order to be interviewed on the channel. There's one person who didn't quite make it to the interview because they slept through the interview slot, but that person will remain nameless. We won't go there now. Lots and lots of people tuning in so far. Rachel said, excited to discover this brand. I love the roomy quote on their site, and I look forward to learning more about them. Keith is here as well. So is Mache. Greg is saying hi from Jakarta. Lots and lots of people tuning in. If you aren't aware of the brand, if you would like to put some questions to Purvi, please feel free to do so. And as you know, it's always nice to know where it is that you're watching from if you ask us a question. So, as this is the first, but hopefully not the last time we're interviewing you here, this is always a wonderful opportunity for a brand founder to just tell us the story of how things came to be. So, Lost Wanderer came out in 2022, but what was the story that led to its creation? Take it away. Take us back a couple of years and tell us how it all came to be.
Um, it didn't quite start as a fragrance journey or fragrance idea. The frustration to share certain ideas or say something was the first thing that came to be, I guess. So it's a bit of a long story. I'll try to keep it as short as I can.
Well, you don't need to worry about keeping it too short. You know me, because I should also say, if people aren't aware, that you're a very, very loyal and faithful follower of this channel, and you watch a lot of the other videos. So you
I
know very well that if I feel I need to interrupt somebody, then I just will. So you carry on. Tell us the story.
Sure. I went into postnatal depression after my kid was born. Initially,
Oh,
it was subtle, but yeah, it was detected 2 years later. And by that time, I was really confused, like, what is happening to me? Somehow, it just never crossed my mind that I might be going through depression. It was pointed out by my GP, and then it was like, yeah, it makes sense. I happily went into therapy, and thankfully, I grew up with a lot of love and care. So it was sort of easier to recover for me. I still had my family, my partner, a few friends to support me through all of that. But it made me question like why people do not talk about little doubts and little those moments of that kind of make you feel like, am I the only one who feels like that? Is there like something wrong with me?
Right.
Because people would talk about depression directly, that oh, I've been through depression, or but then it sounds like a big gray cloud or just like doomsday, and it wouldn't actually feel like, at least it did not for me. It started in such a subtle way that I never saw it coming.
So what almost what people were describing as depression was not something that you personally related to.
Yeah, it sounded
Okay.
like a lot bigger when they talked about it versus what I went through.
Okay.
Um, and during this time, when I was recovering, social media kind of became my safety island where I felt like I could just forget about my routines whoever I am otherwise, and just, you know, how online you can create um, almost a new persona. So I wasn't
Yes.
creating a new persona, but it was sort of a restarting point. And I started enjoying product photography as well. So that gave me a lot more reason to hang out mostly on Instagram. But it's such a shiny, glittery world. People are
Yes.
either very happy or they have a big cause to be unhappy about. And I felt like I was unhappy for no particular reason. Everything was all right. And still, there were days when I was like, I'm just like not happy. And it made me feel like, am I the only one who feels annoyed by the perfect pictures?
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I mean, I'm sure you discovered that you're not the only
no,
one.
I'm sorry.
Go on.
So I kind of believe that it cannot possibly be true, but then
Mm.
it puzzled me why people don't talk about it. And then Are You Okay movement started, and everybody is posting this like, are you okay? Feel free to talk to me. But that feels opposite of what a person needs, because you don't talk to somebody just because they ask you, are you okay? Most of the time, our instinct is to just say, yeah, good, and you.
Very true. Very true.
So, unless somebody shared their own little frustrations and stories, why anybody else would feel inspired to talk to them? And I'm not the kind of person who would take big initiatives. So it just the idea stayed at back of my mind, bugging me like a little thought worm. And I
So can we just can we take a kind of little tangent from the story, Purvi? What had your life been up to that point in terms of either a career or professional work or occupation? You know, what was it up until then?
uh, I would say I got a much easier life than most people. Nothing extravagant, but nothing low either. Sort of a middle lane thing. If it doesn't sound like bragging, I would say that I was always a little above average sort of person. So studies, grades, getting admissions came easy to me. I
Okay.
never knew what the struggle was until my kid was born, who was born with few complications.
Oh
And
gosh, I'm sorry.
now he's all right now, thank you.
Okay, good.
Um, and also, like, you know, as new parents in a country where you don't have a whole lot of family and friends to support you,
Because
at
you'd moved from India to Australia.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think all of those things started affecting me. And I don't know if that's the reason for postnatal depression, or it just because it happens to a lot of women. And now people are becoming more aware of it, which is a good thing.
But I noticed you didn't actually say what you did. Are you being
Oh, I
deliberately
studied fashion.
evasive or what?
Sorry, I completely forgot. But I don't relate that much to fashion, but I did love designing. I did
Okay.
love learning about designing basic elements, how the thought process works, because I cannot think in step by step logical manner. I sort of think all over the place. So it was a really great thing that happened to me to learn how to put your ideas in um, more
Okay. So
organic.
so 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 there was something that was already a kind of creative, shall we say,
Yeah,
artistic pursuit. Okay, so take us back to the main thread of the story. So there you are, looking at
yeah,
your Instagrams and everything and thinking, hang on, am I the only person who kind of thinks this is all a bit strange?
yeah. So just to tie it up, I did work in fashion industry for a few years, but realized that it just wasn't for me. And in
Okay.
fact, any kind of job wouldn't have worked because I sort of get bored easily.
Okay.
And I just knew what I wanted from life, and I decided that that's what I want to do. I want to find a good partner. I want to become a parent at some point and dedicate my life to raising somebody well. I know it
Okay.
sounds almost like a backward thing, but at that point in life, I was just convinced that that is all I want. I don't want anything more. I don't want to keep running after things and miss out the little moments in the process.
I mean, if you don't mind my saying, it doesn't sound backward at all. In fact, it sounds very, very healthy in a way. And thank you for sharing such personal details very, very honestly. There's already a few people who sort of expressed their gratitude for your openness in the comments. But
Thank
but we're still waiting for the and then what happened? How did all of this turn to this?
I kind of ignored it because I had convinced myself that I'm not a career person. This doing product photography gives me a nice creative outlet. Um, and I just moved on from there. But the thought did not want to move on. Uh, and then I discovered niche fragrances, and it was like, oh my goodness, where have you been all my life? It was
So
like,
by this point, you're based in Australia.
yes. And
Okay.
the first brand I discovered was Le Labo. I could
Okay.
not stop telling my mom all about it. Like, you have to come back to Australia. I just want to take you to this shop and we're going to smell all the fragrances because
So we have to ask, what was the Le Labo scent that most captured your imagination?
it was Tonka 25. And I wouldn't say it most captured, but it was like the first thing I smelled that was not in typical men and women eyes. And it
Okay.
just was something new but familiar at the same time. Tonka 25
Yeah.
has the spice blend, which I really enjoyed. And I also wanted to gift a bottle to my mother for her next birthday, but
Nice.
she
So
passed
this
away.
is a good point to bring in somebody else's question actually, because Gavin has already said, please ask if she had any experience of perfume at this point. So if we're thanks for the question, Gavin. If we're being really, really, really stereotypical and generalizing,
Mhm.
perfume and scent is pretty important in Indian culture, right? So what was that? Was it a part of your upbringing?
I was always a bit of a scent obsessed person, which I did not realize before. Whenever we would go to shop, like my mom would go for cosmetics and other things, and I would just spend all my time sniffing every bottle available there, whatever it may be, from deo to fragrances, anything, like even powders. And
Right.
I was never really fond of others because you smell them everywhere. And I guess in Hindi there is a saying "Ghar ki murgi dal barabar," which means like something which is available in abundance becomes um, meaningless or a valueless item for
You
you.
just
So
take it for granted. You start taking it
yeah,
for granted. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. But I always liked exploring fragrances. It never just moved me as much as discovering niche fragrances did. I
Okay.
spent almost half a day in that store because everything smelled amazing and there was a familiar touch to a lot of them, which I did
Okay.
not ever smell in the commercial perfumes.
So Le Labo was the gateway.
Yeah,
And then what happened?
I could not gift her the bottle because she passed away before that.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Oh no.
I think
That's a
sometimes
Go
life
on.
has to just not nudge you, but give you a shout into the right direction. So I kept thinking that I wish I had just done it sooner, not waited for her birthday. And my husband insisted that don't think of it like that. Buy one for yourself. I'm sure she would just take a delight in that. because we kept arguing that she said that she will gift me one. And I said, no, 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 it's your birthday that's coming up. And this is like me giving back something to you. But anyway, so I went back to the store, and instead of Tonka 25, I ended up buying by the fireplace. So
From oh, hang on. That's not from Maison
Maison.
Margiela, is it? Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And then I just kept going back to the store again and again, every chance and every excuse I could find. Like, I just wanted to smell more fragrances. Then I started watching reviews, reading about it. And initially, I thought if I could just find more opportunities to photograph niche fragrances, I would be happy. I tried that. It did not hit the spot.
Okay.
Then I saw so many new brands coming up by people who were not perfumers, and I like, oh wow, that's a new thing. And what if I also tried it? And it's like those imaginary TED talks where you think about things just for the fancy of thinking about it. And then we went to India for my mother's ceremony and things, and everybody kept saying, although it wasn't her time, she had no regrets because she lived each and every day to the best of her capacities. If she had new clothes, she would wear them at the first chance. If she wanted to talk to somebody, she would call them. She will always answer her phone, and a very present person. And it just shook me because I'm like, oh no, I know that there is one thing I will have a big regret about, and a big question, like, what if I ever tried? So thirdly, let's just try it out. If I find a way to create a fragrance of my own, then it's meant to be. If I don't find a way, then move on. At least.
And at this point, had you attempted to set up any kind of business at all?
No, nothing.
Interesting.
I was highly
Had
scared.
your mum done something like that? Like, do you come from
No,
a family of entrepreneurs or anything?
more than half of my family is actually teachers, professors. Everybody is
Teachers are the best people.
Yeah, everybody is into education. Actually, when I was very little, I always thought that I will also become professor, just like my father and his brothers.
Right.
So yeah, business was like a big daunting thing. Nobody in my family had ever done a venture like that, and I knew nothing. So anyway, with the blind faith, I approached it, tried to reaching out to few small fragrance manufacturers. I did not even think
Right.
about
So that's a point for me to interrupt then. So did you decide straight away that you would not want to become a perfumer?
Yes.
So what was the thinking there? You tell us.
Because ideas I had were like I wanted to layer a lot of little things into it. For example, Lost Wanderer is as much about grief as it is about sweet memories.
Okay.
It is also a philosophical thing that you do not just lose people entirely, their effects will stay in your life. The
Interesting.
memories you shared will stay with you. So I wanted to insert a lot of little nuances in these fragrances, and I thought even if I start learning it today, it will take me at least a decade to get to a place where
Right.
I can work on something like that, which is not just simply smelling good, but conveys a particular story.
Okay, so that was, I mean, again, thanks for being open about that. So you just thought, okay, I'm not interested in the actual mechanics of making it,
Yeah.
but I know what I want the bottle to contain.
Yes, I
Okay.
wanted to be a story. I definitely wanted starting, mid, and dry down. I don't believe in the pyramid structure because the notes do not typically just, in my mind, they do not work like that. But
No.
I do like the feeling of a story where a fragrance takes you through a journey instead of just being one thing.
So as you were immersing yourself in this process of learning about this industry,
Mhm.
I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but was there almost a moment in your mind where you thought, oh my goodness, I feel like I found my, I don't want to say calling because that sounds really, really
No,
hard, but I found my niche, I found my thing.
that happened only this year.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. Till then, it was
So
more
come on,
about,
fast forward to when that happened. Was there a particular moment when that happened?
yeah, I think when finally we decided on the production sample for Hornoke, please.
Okay. But what was it particularly that you think made you realize that you sort of arrived in what you're meant to be doing?
When we started working on Hornoke, please, I thought I was making a white floral fragrance, but I wanted to create a familiar atmosphere. Whenever I have experienced white flowers, it was never in a very pristine, clean atmosphere. Like you go to the market, they're very chaotic, very busy.
Mm.
You like just zigzagging through all the traffic and things. There's like rickshaw, bicycle, very narrow lanes, and sometimes those narrow lanes will open up into a big space and there is a truck standing there, which makes you wonder like, how did you get here? But that was my world, and that is how I remember smelling white flowers, and I wanted to create that atmosphere without saying to the perfumer that this is the picture I have in mind, because I was afraid that it will become dirty and dusty and a very stereotypical image of India. So
Right.
I had to be very precise and like, okay, this is a good direction. It has the warmth, but I want the flowers to come out more and I want it to have a sense of humor. And then we worked out how we gonna add that sense of humor, which eventually became the boozy notes. And the Styrax was Florian's own idea, which I would not have ever come up with. And when it finally came together, and when I smelled that last batch of modes, and it felt like I actually feel like I'm there without it exactly smelling like the place, but the
Mm.
feeling of being there. And that's
Ah, no,
thought I
that's
need
wonderful.
to
And,
just
I'm sorry we're sort of jumping around all over the place, but I guess that's how these conversations go. So let's go back to the beginning then, because
yeah.
it is fascinating, the process of how a brand is started. So you started approaching, you said, some smaller fragrance manufacturing houses. What's their attitude towards somebody coming along? You know, do they have a sort of don't bother us, leave us alone attitude, or is the attitude basically, well, if you've got the money, we're yours?
Um, it it was a bit all over the place. Nobody really said that bugger off,
Right.
but most of them were like and very curious about, okay, so what sort of budget do you have, how much clarity do you have, and what you how you gonna plan things. And I was like, I don't know anything, I'm actually expecting you to kind of guide me. And that's where I think Mombati company was really warm and welcoming and understanding.
What was the
They
company, sorry?
Mombati company, the people
Okay.
who created Lost Wanderer.
And where are they based?
Sydney.
Okay. So you connected with them for what?
Yeah, so I met them in person. We sat down for an hour. And while I was constantly thinking about my mom, I was not ready to do a fragrance on that because it was still too fresh. I could not even talk about her without going into a meltdown.
Mm,
So it was there in my notes, but I was trying to focus on like, how about we create a mango fragrance that's not like the Western mango, but there is a particular variety called Kesar mango. And then I had few other ideas like what if this idea and that idea. And then on the last page I was hiding away like that's about my mother. And they were like, we want to hear it. And I just said like, she and my son share the same birth date, and
oh
now only
wow.
when she's gone I can suddenly realize what my role as a parent truly needs to be. The way she had always made me feel like I'm safe, and whenever I go back to her with any problem, she can resolve it. And I need to be that sort of cocoony world for my child. And
Mm.
they said that's a lot more interesting than anything else. I was like, no, but I'm not ready for it. But they nudged me in that direction. Like, this is very personal, and that is why it would be different and unique. You should really focus on that story. Because I could do only one fragrance. That was very clear that I'm just going to do one. And then
You
we'll
mean
see.
you could only do one from a financial perspective, or?
Both ways. Like, I didn't want to be caught up in too many ideas and then do justice to none. Just wanted
Right.
to focus on one thing. And financially as well, I could afford to do production. I mean, when I went to meet Mombadi company, I had no idea financially what kind of budget to have. I knew what my budget is, but whether that can do even one fragrance or not wasn't clear at that point. And after
Right.
the discussion, I concluded that both ways, just doing one fragrance right now makes the most sense.
So I'm fascinated because this feels like, for whatever reason, because of what had happened to you, because of the place you were in your life, it's such a huge leap to make. So
Yeah.
because it's one thing to make a perfume, but it's
Yeah.
also another to say, not only am I going to make a perfume, but I'm also going to bottle it and label it and get packaging for it, and I'm going to charge people money for it. So what was was there a particular thinking, or were you actually trying not to think too much?
Yeah, I think that was the approach, not to think too much and just do one step at a time. And initially, the commitment didn't seem as huge because they were happy to provide ready product. Like the minimum quantity was 20 kg, but I was going to get 20 kg of ready product, which
Okay.
would not number in that many bottles, considering having to have samples and everything. And I thought, what is the worst thing that can happen? I will gift at least a few bottles to people who were connected to my mother as her memory. I will
Right.
need to give few as PR, and then if I can sell, more than selling, it was more like I wanted to share it. Anybody who had been through something similar, or if it just made a difference to one person, I was happy to give it a go. And then just have this satisfaction that, okay, I had this idea and I did it and it was fun. And then maybe if it feels like it's going in the right direction, then maybe I'll do another one, maybe not. That was like the sort of approach that's why I said with a lot of hesitations. It was not
Right.
like, okay, I'm launching a brand. But
And was it fun? Because you said you just used the word fun. Was it fun?
uh, it was anxious fun.
Okay, tell
It
us
is
more.
like a roller coaster ride where you feel like your heart is going to jump out of your body, but at the same time, it's also like, wow, this is like absolutely new and
But
such
like,
a
what were some of the more anxiety inducing moments then?
figure out how the production will happen, because even if they provide the ready product, I still have to bottle it. I have to find the bottles. I did not know how the sealing and everything works and who the manufacturers are, how to find it. Overall, not just the fragrance industry, but the business industry in itself is very secretive. It's
Yes.
not you can just find out or where this particular product gets made, and I'm just gonna go there.
And did you have friends and family sort of saying, Purvi, this is crazy. Why are you doing this? Just stop.
I was just so scared of the entire idea that I did not tell anybody except my husband, and he was the only one who would get tortured constantly with like, what should I do? And he's like, but where is the plan? Where are the numbers? I'm like, don't ask me that. Can you give me advice without any of those details? And he's like, what am I supposed to do?
But I've got to ask you then. So when the process, eventually ended up in this product that we have here, or this perfume we have here,
It
when you
was
gave it to some relatives back in India, what was their response? The people who knew your mum.
Now we're just going to go back a little bit because
Go
a
on.
lot of disasters happened in between.
Okay.
Um, First of all, the COVID and the lockdown and everything, the supply chains got interrupted. So it
Of course.
inspired the Mombati company pushing me that this is a really good story. When I got the first set of samples, I steered myself away that no, there is a rose fragrance that I really liked. And I said, you know what, I'll do the mum one later when I'm a bit more steady. Right now, this rose fragrance seems like a really good one. It seems unique, but also it was a rose with tobacco kind of scent, and I really liked it. So I convinced
Mm.
myself that I can put the other story on back burner and go with this. But before we could go into production, the supply chain got interrupted, and the Mombati company had to change their policies. So they came back to me and said the rose fragrance cannot happen right now because a lot of those ingredients aren't available.
Oh
We'll
no.
have to start from scratch. Plus, you will not get 20 kg of ready product, but you will get 20 kg of fragrance oil. So now I had to plan for a production that was 4 times larger. And
Right,
that
because then you would have to sort out the dilution and alcohol, etc., etc.
it added a lot more steps and complications. And
Gosh.
to them, I just said, yes, okay, I'll figure it out. And but inside, I was like, maybe this is a sign that I should give up. So
Ah.
yeah, they sent a new batch of samples from which came Lost Wonder. And it did end up becoming a story about her. So I guess it was more of destiny pushing me in the direction that, like, no, we're not skipping this.
Oh, wow.
And second thing, because of the scale, I had to decide, like, if I now want to do this, it cannot happen just as a fun side project. I'll have to commit to it. And I very clearly remember a particular moment. I was taking a walk with my husband, and I was just going into a spiral sort of conversation where it's like, but I really want to do it. Somehow my gut says that I've got a good idea and I need to do this. But at the same time, I feel like, who am I? Like, there's so many fragrance brands,
Mm.
perfumers, people who know so much more about fragrances, and why should I be doing this? And but then I'm not hearing my stories, not the kind of things that I want to hear. Should I do
Mm.
this or not? And he was like, do it, because you wouldn't be at peace, and don't be afraid of failing. It's okay to fail. Just learn, get up, and have a go at it again. And I was like, oh, okay, it's that easy. Am I just ready to fail? And I was like, yeah, go for it.
We
Like,
must
okay, I'm
ask
excited.
this very wise man who to whom we should be grateful. What does he do in his life? Is he like some kind of counselor or therapist or psychiatrist or something?
He has a very almost typical sort of corporate job. And
Okay.
when we got married, I kind of told him that I'm never going to work. And someday, if I decide to work, it probably won't be generating a whole lot of income. Would you be okay with that? And it's like, yeah, but you're not allowed to be lazy. You'll have to do something that gives you a
As in, I guess what you meant was that maybe you wouldn't have like a regular 9 to 5, but
yeah, no,
am I right?
I got a lazy life. And like, this is a very bizarre thing to say publicly, but yeah, I just wanted a lazy life. And he's like, that's not
Well,
okay.
it's live and you've said it and it's not going to get edited out now.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I think that's what also made me fall for him, because he gave me an idea that nobody had ever suggested before, that it's
Hmm.
okay to work for money, but then you have to find joy in life. You have to find a purpose in life. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. I love how the dynamics of this relationship work. I feel we need to have him on the video next. But no,
He,
let's go back. Let's go back to Lost Wonder. I'm fascinated to know what your relatives in India made of it when they smelt it. I've
uh,
pre-sprayed some as well. Just before we went live, I pre-sprayed some just to remind myself of it. And for those people who haven't smelt it, it is in many ways a kind of very classical amber perfume, isn't it? But with some interesting twists. But tell us how the relatives responded.
most of them liked it because it reminded them of Temple, which was also my husband's first reaction as well.
Okay.
There is an incensey feeling to it, but not in a way that incense comes across in most men perfumes. So this is a more familiar incense for us. And most of my relatives also picked up on that aspect. For
And
them,
is that
Lavender is still the favorite versus the others.
interesting? And is that because of a particular quality or type of incense that's used, or just all of the
Yeah.
materials working together?
So the more expensive, more higher quality incenses is what this one smells like.
Ah, interesting, interesting. Right. I don't know how this has happened, but we've already gone over the half-hour mark. So I should say thank you to everybody for watching so far, for tuning in. You're watching a live interview with me, Persolaise, and Purvi Joshi, who's the founder, creative director of the Australian-based, but yet very, very India-influenced brand Peosym. There are quite a few questions coming through, Purvi, which I want to put to you, and a lot of them are quite sort of about logistics and availability. I'm going to put up the brand website on screen for a few minutes because I know that you do a discovery set,
Mhm.
but people are asking things like, so here's Tripti saying, Hi, Persolaise. Hi, Purvi. Thank you so much for this interview. I can't wait to smell your perfumes. Any idea when Horn OK Please will be available in the US? Could you let
So we
us know?
do ship to US, UK, most countries. Like yesterday only, I don't know what happened, but I got queries from two different countries, Ireland and Denmark, whether I ship to them. Initially, we did not have them on our list, but whenever somebody sends a query, I will check with DHL, and if there are no other issues, I will just add that country. So we do ship to most places, and if somebody's country is not there, they should feel free to send me a query, and I'll see if I can add.
Okay, because Mache says can't find the fragrances in the EU. So I guess you don't have stockists, but you would
No,
do it yourselves.
yeah. So we don't have stock list anywhere. There are just few boutiques in Australia where our fragrances are available currently. More than that, okay. Since I'm saying bizarre things anyway, I'll admit this as well. I'm really bad at marketing and sales. So I am yet to convince few good retailers to start stocking the products. Maybe this interview will convince them, but anyway, that's where we're at. But I am committed to learning it. I will figure it out at some point. I don't know
But
how long it will take.
well, that was one of the questions that I had on my list to ask you actually, was what has the attitude been of retailers? My main experience is of London-based, UK-based retailers, and some of them are very, very, very demanding, and they want, they have a say, and I'm not pointing particularly at your bottles or packaging, but they sort of say, oh no, 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 you mustn't use red in your packaging because it looks too much like such and such, and don't use that font because then nobody will see your brand name, and they essentially make demands, and then the brands have to go away and decide if they're going to meet those demands. Have you had that sort of experience, or have you just not reached out to any retailers yet?
I have reached out to a few. I'm yet to get a concrete response. Responses so far are a little vague, like we're out of capacity, or this is not the time when we look at the new projects, but this is the season when you should approach us. Or and sometimes some people are very kind and they would respond back saying that we do like the products, but the packaging needs to have certain aspects. Because imagine if they sell exactly these boxes. Now either I have to put a plastic sticker on the closer, so it's like very clear whether it was opened or not.
Right.
And then in terms of the ingredients and details, different countries have different requirements. So far, nobody has said like you need to change the font or anything. Most of the people do seem to like the bottle and boxes.
Right.
It's mostly for the discovery sets where they say if it can be arranged, which we're already working on. And I see the point. I do agree with them. It just, we can only improve one thing at a time given the financial constraints.
It sounds as though there's also, I mean, yes, financial constraints, everybody has to kind of obey financial constraints, but it also sounds as though you don't want to rush.
No, I am not in a rush for sure.
Okay.
Mainly because it feels like if it starts going too fast, then, and if I'm not able to keep up, all the work done so far will also go down the drain very quickly.
Okay. Okay.
So
Interesting.
I
So
want to keep it at a pace where I feel like I can keep up with it, just keep
okay.
growing gradually.
Now, one of the initial sort of topics, if I can put it that way, over which you and I connected, back in the day when you very, very kindly approached me and asked if I would like to receive this bottle, which you very, very generously sent.
My pleasure.
You on this channel, as regular viewers will know, as you will know as well, Purvi, we very, very often bemoan the fact that there are still some brands out there that don't reveal the names of the perfumers who made their scents. But then you contacted me and said, but it's not always a case of the brand not revealing or not wanting to reveal. Sometimes a brand has actually been told that they mustn't and they can't. So could you expand on that a little bit? I mean, I'm guessing in your case, you also are under some kind of contractual obligation to not reveal the names of the perfumer who made the first two. Is that right?
Yeah. So with
Okay.
Mumbai company, it's the anybody who is starting a new thing in Sydney, I would highly recommend them reaching out to Mombadi company. But it's their company policy that they will not share the perfumer's name. So I would be completely pretending and lying if I say I directly talk to the perfumers and give them brief. That's not how it works. At least not it
Right.
has not worked like that for me. Even with Firmnish, where I do have the perfumer's name, I work
Because your latest one was a Firminish scent. No, sorry,
more
I'm pointing at
based
this one. I'm
perfect.
pointing Horn. Okay, sorry, this one. Yeah,
Yeah.
go on.
Um,
Sorry, I interrupted you.
so with Mombadi company, it's the company policy. With Nirmohee, the production was done by Judan, but because it's the we're a small company and they work at a different scale. So we worked with them through an agency, which was kindly suggested and approved by Judan. But the hitch is that you don't get the perfumer's name because you're not working with them directly.
Do they say why? Because I mean, just
Yeah,
from the
I get
outside, I'm
politically correct answers and not then I when somebody politely kind of avoids an answer, I decide not to push too much
right.
because sometimes they're also people and employees, right? It's not like a company is an entity and I'm talking to them, so maybe they also have their own reasons and restrictions to not reveal any further. But they did say that if suppose the fragrance becomes popular and we can do production at a slightly larger scale, or it becomes popular enough where they see a clear benefit in being associated with it, then I have a chance to get the perfumer's name. So it's at least not a complete no. In Mombati's case, it's like it's not gonna happen.
Interesting.
And with Horn Okay Please, when first time I started talking to Firmnish and I asked them like, but will you give me perfumer's name? Because for me, it was important from the get-go, from when even I didn't know anything how things will go. I was kind of excited to share the perfumer's name, but then I
Mm,
realized that it's not gonna be up to me. So when
that's
Firmnish
interesting.
said that, yes, you will get a name, it was like, am I dreaming or am I missing some details? Have I read the minimum quantity wrong? But it worked out.
Well, did you do? As in, did you not see a zero that was at the end
Yeah,
of it or something? Right. And so we should say the name because the name is.
Florian Gallo.
And did you actually have any kind of direct interaction with him, or was it okay? So
No,
you got the
just
name, but you didn't get the access.
no. But he's been very kind. Like on LinkedIn, when I posted, he immediately reshared the post and showed, like, shared his own thoughts on the fragrance, which I really appreciate.
Okay. Was there a particular reason why you went to Firminish for the third one?
No, I went all over the places. After Lost Wanderer, the second one I wanted to do was supposed to feel like vacation, but in a serene way. And I thought it has to be a neroli and vetiver fragrance. So
Okay.
this is where I learned that I do not know enough about fragrances to cling to certain notes. So we explored so many options with Mombati company. It did not get anywhere. Then decided that either I have to give up or I have to explore more options. And I thought before giving up, why not just go really crazy? Let's reach out to the big ones and see if I can get any response.
Hmm.
I tried emails, phone, asking anybody I knew within the industry, like, can you put me in touch with someone? Because I had to, when you go big, you have to knock on the every door and turn over every stone. And somehow I got somebody to speak to at Judan, and they suggested you can work with us through this agency. And meanwhile, I had submitted a form at Firmnish, but I did not expect to hear back. They came back to me just when we had started the production of Nirmohee. So I was like, that fragrance
Okay.
is done, but can we work on the next one? So at this point, I had not quite decided that there will be a third one, but because I heard back from Firmnish and they're saying, yes, it will be whatever you want it to be. You will also get the perfumer's name. And I was like, now if I give up, then I'm the silliest person in the world. So I have to do the third one, no matter what. Like stretch every bit you can, but make this happen.
Are you
And
are
that's
you enjoying are you enjoying the process more and more as you're getting into it?
with Firmnish, yes, it was definitely a lot more rewarding and
Okay.
a lot more fun. So that is why I said, like, when we finished, creating Horn Okay Please and it went into production, it felt like I just want to keep doing this.
Oh, wonderful. And what was it that made it more rewarding? Did you feel that you were more involved, or I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you are involved because you're saying what you want to go in there, but you know what I mean? Did you feel more directly involved?
Other two, I had a lot more restrictions versus Horn Okay Please. I had a lot more creative room, more support from the company, and the way they just interact, provide information. It's also transparent and warm and very friendly, but friendly not in sort of just polite way, but
Hmm.
you feel that they care for your project just as much as you do.
It's fascinating, and I suppose it's really, really encouraging to hear all this because you know, with the greatest respect, obviously, don't take this the wrong way.
Mhm.
Firmenich usually we associate with some of the biggest brands in the world,
Yeah,
but it's wonderful that they kind of, you know, responded to you and said, "Yeah, okay, we'll make you a perfume as well." I mean, I'm guessing they named a price, but just the fact that
yeah,
you know that they were willing to do that is
exactly.
great.
It was a life-changing experience in every way. Like this is when finally I feel like it has become firm that okay, now we are a brand and we
We
want
we
to
should
keep the
also just we should also just very, very quickly explain, because I explained this in my review of Horn OK Please, but Gavin is saying here there's an Indian food stall at Borough Market called Horn OK Please. There is a very, very specific reason, and if anybody's been to India, they will know what it is. Tell us why it's called Horn OK Please.
It's idiosyncratic slogan you read behind the trucks in India. Now it's getting banned, so you will probably see it less.
Oh no!
I mean, it's to reduce the noise pollution. But when I was a little kid, we just saw it everywhere. Those were probably the first three English words we learned to read.
Because actually, because usually Indian driving etiquette, again, if I can generalize, is that you're supposed to use your horn, right? Because by using your horn, you're saying, "I'm here, I'm here."
Yeah, it's not like I'm yelling at you or cursing.
Yeah,
More like, "Hi, I need a way. Can I
yeah.
just can
In
you
in
just move inside a little bit?"
in that kind of magical way that driving happens in India. I remember once being in Pune many years ago and just standing watching mesmerized at a certain crossroads where that had no traffic lights, and yet every single the traffic just flowed, and I couldn't even explain how it flowed, and yet it did.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like people walking through streets has same feeling, and it's not like anybody's getting in your way. They're on their own journey,
yeah.
so you just keep navigating a little space for you and keep moving forward.
No, and it does somehow work. Now,
Mhm.
speaking of India, Gavin, you're on a roll today. Gavin is asking us loads of questions, but that's fine. I like the questions. Gavin says, "Could you ask Purvi about Indian or Hindu attitudes to perfume and scent?" Now, that of course is a whole can of worms because Indianness is not necessarily Hindu-ness, but that's politically a minefield at the moment. So I will let you take that question in any way you see fit. What would you say attitudes in India are towards perfume?
I guess it would be same as anywhere else in the world. People do like good fragrances and avoid anything that feels smelly. But as a religious thing, I would say fragrances are a huge part of it. We use a lot of incenses. My granny used to have a little piece of sandalwood that she would grind on a stone and just do a little tikka. And overall, I think fragrances are a huge part of our culture more than religion. Food, and I don't remember ever not being surrounded by a very prominent scent of something.
Right. And yes, I mean, Indian cooking, again, if we're going to be stereotypical, is amongst the most, you know, beautiful sensory experience. You know, you always know as soon as those spices hit the hot oil or the ghee or whatever, they start blooming miraculously, don't they?
Yeah,
I was actually going to ask you not so much about India, but about Australia, because again, if we're being stereotypical, and we have to be so careful, you know, across international boundaries, but you know, if I have caused offense to anybody, then it is absolutely unintentional, and I apologize. But Australia is not the kind of place, a country with which we would automatically associate perfume, and not in the same way that we would, France or Italy. What's the Australian perfume scene like? I mean, clearly there was a place where you were able to go and smell Le Labo and Maison Margiela, but
Yeah.
other than that, what's the scene like?
In Australia, I think the overall population prefers more subtle and softer scents. For
Okay.
example, Lost Wonder is very popular in USA, but in Australia, it's the Nirmohee. And I can see why people prefer a little more sunny, breezy sort of fragrances. But now there are a lot more niche brands coming into the market. We have started seeing them more and more at the bigger stores than ever before. There's a particular store chain called Mecca here, which is sort of like Sephora and things in other countries, but it's way better than Sephora, if I say
Okay.
so. And they were the first ones to sort of do niche fragrances in a big way. That's where I discovered Le Labo as well, and they are still adding a lot more to their collections. And there are other stores now following the suit, starting to keep more niche fragrances. But where the mass market goes, it just kind of starting to learn about fragrances that are not just floral and caramelly or the woody ambers.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's just like kind of waking up to it.
Okay. No, that is fascinating because clearly we also had Saskia on this channel a little while ago from Grandiflora. I don't know if I mean
It's not popular locally as much.
okay.
I did not hear about Grandiflora until I started doing my own research about what are the Australian brands and where are
Okay.
the niche fragrances from Australia. And but just now, if you come back to the present time, there are so many new brands coming up now. A lot more people would also know about Grandiflora. There are just new brands sprouting every month, I guess.
Right. Gosh. Well, another reason to go to Australia. Purvi, I can't thank you enough for your time. I wish you all the very, very best of luck with the brand. I don't think you need it, but I wish you all the very, very best of luck anyway. I do urge, if you live in a part of the world where Purvi is able to ship things to you, I would very much urge you to try her scents, the discovery set that she has created. I think if you like something that I think it's fair to say isn't too shouty, too loud, but offers rewards if you're kind of willing to go looking for them, and scents that come across as quite heartfelt, I think you'd enjoy them. Thank you very much to everybody for watching and for tuning in. I'm going to leave you with just one question. I suspect I know the answer, Purvi, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
If you knew then, a few years ago, what you know now about all of the difficulties and challenges of creating these perfumes in the brand, would you still have gone ahead and done it?
Uh, Hard to say for like with full confidence, but it would have scared me a lot more. I'm
Okay.
still the kind of person who would say, whatever, I just don't want to feel like I never tried it. So maybe there is still, but the chance of being too scared and not doing it would go much, much higher.
Yeah, but yes, because sometimes it's best to not know, right? A little knowledge can be a dangerous thing.
Ignorance.
Yes, ignorance can be bliss sometimes. Sometimes. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, Purvi. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned to social media for details of more episodes coming your way. Bye now.